We'll get rolling. Just I guess quickly from my end, quick wrap up of last week's game. I thought like I told you after the game, I thought our kids did some really positive things team-wise. I think there's a lot of areas for us to continue to get better, that jumped off that film that we need to continue to strain to work on. And I'm really excited to get back at it with this football team this week, and certainly, playing a very good opponent, as you guys know. So with that question, and with that said, I'll open up for you guys.
What makes TCU's defense so good in every aspect of that
Yeah,
game?
I think the biggest thing about TCU is speed. You look at their team offensively, defensively, special teams, it's all about their ability to really run. And the defensive aspect of it, I think, goes back to certainly Coach Patterson and his history of coaching that defense. And anytime you're in a system for almost 20 years now where you really know your answers, you know who you are, you've recruited to a system, they've done a phenomenal job of that. And I think that's why you see that defense. They know where their answers are. He knows what his answers are. He's got the ability to make adjustments within game, and he's recruited to a really great plan. And so you got a lot of respect for what they are, especially on the defensive side of the football. And then on the offensive side, it's all about speed. You got a quarterback that's now in the second year in the system, playing with a lot of confidence. He's got the ability to run it and throw it, and then he's got playmakers. They're running the ball really well. I really like their running back, and the 4 receivers they put out there are outstanding. So great challenge for us, great football team, and excited about it, to be honest.
You talked about the adjustments you guys were able to make in the second half of these Big 12 games that have allowed you to be successful on defense. What's the process of making those adjustments, and how have you been able to kind of pick apart things as well as you have and have success in the second half?
Yeah, I just think the biggest is communication amongst our staff, and that's one great thing about having the continuity that we have is, kind of just like I was talking about with Coach, he's been there 20 years, he knows his players, he knows his system. That's one of the nice things about us is, we kind of know systematically what we want to do and, how we're doing things and how maybe somebody's trying to take things away, and then how can we give our kids some tools in the second half of the game to maybe make adjustments that we weren't prepared for, maybe that they've done differently that they didn't show on film. And that's football, that's coaching, and that's kind of how it goes week to week. Everybody's always going to change something, and you got to have the ability to adapt. So our staff's done a really good job, and that communication's always been key for us.
To piggyback off that one, how much better is your team's preparation that feeds into that second half success they're building as the game goes on?
Well, there's a foundation this year. A year ago, you saw a team that had no foundation to it. So you were, what you were adjusting to was adjustments. So, there was never a foundation that we were able to really hone in on. And I think, we talked about trying to change some of our habits a year ago instead of really working on football in the spring and summer prior to the season. But then, systematically and schematically, we just get to know our players, what can they do? How do we put them in the best position to be successful? And so I think twofold, you're seeing there is a foundation, and we know what that foundation is. And, you don't want to ever stray too far from that foundation that gives you the opportunity to have success.
You guys are, I think, 13th in the country on 4th downs, and I know you said on Saturday sometimes it's hitting, sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong, but what goes into a 4th down decision, and you guys have a chart or something that gives you percentages of that thing, or what goes into that?
No, a stress, that's what goes into that, I'll be honest with you. So, I think the biggest thing that we try to do, and I try to do, and we do talk about it, there are some percentages, and there's certainly some analytics to some of that, but I think so much of it is really just a gut feeling, what's the flow of the game. That's the one thing I do like being, as the head coach rather than being an offensive coordinator. And the offensive coordinator, you're kind of up in the box and you lose the emotion of the game and the feel of the game, where sometimes as the head coach, you're down there and you can maybe take the emotional offense and defensive piece out of it, but you can put the emotional, how's the flow of the game going? And I think that's part of my job as a head coach, is to really understand the flow of the game and manage that flow of the game. And so I think a lot more of it, rather than being analytical about it, it's more of, a gut feeling and trying to match the flow of the football game.
Is Saturday's an example of that, where you know, you'd have the pick and then you start doing something offensive. If you get that 4th down, you end up scoring. If you don't, if you punt it away, maybe they go and score and they're up 13.
Yeah, you know, I exactly. You kind of felt like, you know, that flows there. I think we had gotten the first down on the 3rd and 4, 3rd and 5. Then it's 3rd and 5 again, and we get, you know, we get 4, and we're right there. And so I think again, it's a gut call on it. You know, you're on your own 35, 36-yard line, and you know, you just feel the momentum of, yeah, you are thinking about that. You punt the ball away, you're punting into the wind. They get good field position, go down. You know, what's that do to the overall momentum of the football game? And you know, again, like I said in the game on Saturday, you hope that if you are who you say you are, then you got the opportunity to get a yard and continue a drive. And you know, fortunately, our kids did. And you know, David had an incredible run, so it was a great run by him.
With what Turpin has been able to do on special teams, especially with punt returns, how important is Colin Downing come this weekend?
Boy, I mean, everybody that plays special teams this weekend has got to be on it. You know, really, a year ago preparing for him, you know, just so much respect for his courage, his quickness, his ability, big play ability. They do a really good job coaching to take advantage of what his athleticism and ability shows. So, you know, it's going to have to be a great focus from our end of it. We're going to have to know where he is, and we're going to have to do, you know, give our kids the tools to be successful in this football game. But Colin will certainly be huge in this game for sure.
On Allen's first touchdown in that game, you guys had the 2 stacked receivers on both sides of the line. How much does that kind of a formation open things up just because of the number of guys that can make a play out there?
Well, you know, I think anytime you got 4 of our receivers out there right now, you know, it certainly gives us options. And, you know, the stack piece of it is just giving the defense a different look and kind of trying to figure out how they're going to play that look. You know, you try film study, and sometimes that's the same, and sometimes they switch it up. So, you know, I think it's a matter for us of mixing and matching our personnel to the best of our ability, and then when we do, trying to take advantage of those opportunities. But you know, that was obviously a great route by Allen, and certainly a great throw by Kyle.
You guys are allowing like 15 points per game so far in conference play. What's allowed you to have that kind of success, and what's it take to maintain it moving throughout the rest of the year?
Well, first of all, I think the biggest thing from our end is being multiple defensively, you know, and that allowed us to, I think, start to present some different looks early in the season. You know, like I told you, we were just trying to get some of those young guys settled in, and we didn't want to, you know, I don't think we wanted to expand too fast. And I still think that was smart from our end because we've got some really good foundational tools that has allowed us to grow and kind of build on that foundation. But I think the keys we got to be multiple. You know, we got to continue to play well on the defensive front. Let our back 7 guys play good football, and you know, have the ability to affect the quarterback with those front guys. And so I think great challenges ahead of us, and as you guys know, we're going to face some great players and great competition. It starts this Saturday, so you know, huge challenge for this defense and this football team.
I think one of the things you used Saturday was situational football, and that's why you won. Red zone obviously is a situational type thing. I think you're 90% in the red zone. What goes into red zone preparation during the week, and then, you know, converting those to touchdowns like you did on 3rd down 3 times?
Yeah, you know, we spend so much time in situational football because, again, it's who we are, you know, and when your margin for error is small, like we are, you got to do a really good job of understanding and executing in situational football, and that's the tribute there goes to, you know, our coaching staff and really trying to do a great job of putting our playmakers in great position to make plays and be successful. And you know, Brian Gasser, Jim Hoffer, Tom Manning, you know, when you're talking the passing game, and then Lou and Al and Tom, you know, in the run game, I think that part of it, they do a really good job of trying to see what's the best ability to win matchup football. And you look at all those plays, they were matchup situations, and we were able to create matchups to be successful.
What does Sam see in Buckner mean to your offense, both in blitz pickup and run blocking?
Well, he's got the best hair of anybody on the offense, so I think that part's really positive. You know, Sam's just a tough guy. He's a throwback football player, and again, there's a kid that when he came in here was a linebacker, and you loved him. One of my favorite stories about Sam is you went to winter workouts, and you know, those first year of winter workouts weren't the easiest thing going on, and Sam was a guy that thrived in that winter workout session. And it's kind of, how do we put this guy in a position to help our football team, and how do we give him a role? Football's important, And Sam's really taken to it, you know, last year in fall camp, we moved him to that F position, and, you know, I think as you saw us play good football from the middle of the season on a year ago, at least looked like a football team. You know, the positive was that Sam was a huge piece of that. His lead blocking, his ability to catch the ball in the backfield. You know, he brings a lot to the table. So Sam's kind of one of those kind of hidden heroes of our football team because he does a lot for us and not a lot of people take notice to.
I mean, yesterday, it's been 12 years since Iowa State's been ranked in the AP poll. I guess, what was your reaction seeing Iowa State on there? And I know it's not the end, but what are your comments from yesterday?
I'll be honest with you, I had no reaction. You know, I think it is what it is. You know, you hit the nail on the head. Those things are things that you want to have after the season. And I think the reality of it is that's what makes college football really hard, and that's why people don't stay in that poll, because they do react to it and they have reactions to it. And the reality of those polls those are things you want to be in when the season's over, because it's you know, college football, the season is truly a culmination of everything that happened during the year. And so we've got so much football left to play that, you know, I think being a young coach that's been in this long enough now, that you realize those are things that really don't matter. And it's great for the school, great for, you know, obviously everybody to talk about, but the guys in this wall and the staff, I think, could care less about it, to be honest.
How do you feel like the team is mentally coming into this game? Could be the biggest game at Jack Trice Stadium on paper going into the game in 15 years.
Well, uniquely, and I said this, I think maybe to Randy, like, we played a lot of big games that have been the biggest games in the last 15 years, so this is just another one, I guess. You know, so I think that's what I love about this team, and I think that's what I love about those comments, that, you know, our guys are the same every week, and, you know, whether it's been a tough loss, and we've had some of those tough losses, or, you know, whether they've been some big wins, our kids have really just stayed the course. And that's the only thing that really gives us a chance to be successful, is we have to get better week in and week out, and it's really not about the opponent or the atmosphere we're going into. All those things are great, that's college football, but for us, we got to be the best team week in and week out, and we must get better. And our football team even showed a lot on Saturday that there's a lot of areas we got to improve on if we want to continue to be successful.
At the same time, I know you've done more than nod at history in this program. You've had coaches, past coaches in the mentor program, all that. Does anything about this week conjure some of those memories, or is there anything planned regarding that?
Yeah, in just in terms of
Just is anybody gonna speak to the team? Or
yeah, you know, I don't know anybody speak to the team. I know Coach Mack's coming back this week, which I'm really excited to have back. Coach Majors, they're honoring this week, which is great to have people that have been, you know, really the foundation of true success here, you know. And it's so great for our kids to have coaches like that come back around, and certainly players that come back around, because I think it gives them and reminds them of where they want to be and where they want to have the chance to finish. And the great thing about those guys are those guys that not only did it for 5, 6, 7 games, they sustained it. And so they're great mentors to all of us, and, you know, just excited to have coaches like that back around our football program. And hopefully, you know, I know Coach Mack will be in this week and be around our team a little bit, so it'll be great to have him.
One of those two coaches you just mentioned told me that it's a cliche, I know, the chemistry within your locker room is so much better than what it was when he saw you guys a year ago. He said it looks like everybody likes each other. How do you develop that? I mean, especially last year was your first year and this is your second year. How do you develop that, a continuity, you know, where everybody likes each other? And I'm not just talking about coaches, I'm talking about the players.
Well, I think the biggest thing, Randy, that you have to do is you have to, and this isn't just football, this is business and any other operation that you're going to put a bunch of people and philosophies together, is there's got to be a common goal. And everybody that touches the program has to be aligned to that. Players, coaches. In the world of football, it becomes players, because coaches, it becomes the academic staff, it becomes the athletic training staff, it becomes the equipment staff, because everybody touches everything every single day. And I think the biggest thing that we've been able to do is align a vision of where we want this program to go. and everybody's kind of held accountable to that. And you're either with us and you're aligned to it and you want to be with that, or you start to really stick out like a sore thumb. And I think that part's what's been really rewarding. And then the second part of it is people start to take great ownership in it. You take those silos that kind of happen in any organization where, because ego is kind of the enemy of everybody, right? And you do everything in your power to not allow that ego to creep into those silos, and you keep everybody centered on the mission at hand. And I think that's the thing that's been really fun, and then you start to see the ownership in each of those areas. And I think the most incredible thing for me is to see the ownership of our players. And you see with this senior class, and I think that's probably one of the greatest stories about this team so far is our 19 seniors and their own story. Everybody's got a story. None of it's been easy for those 19 guys, but they've stayed the course, and I think they just got this thick skin about them that goes back to not really caring about what anybody says about the program or the team or the highs and lows of winning or losing, just staying the course and getting better. They've been the ones that kind of allowed that to happen. They've made sure the locker room stayed as a close-knit group, and because there's been ample opportunity so far this season for that to go south in a lot of ways. So the credit goes to the kids, but I think that alignment is really what's given us a chance to have success.
Coach, you've talked a lot about poise with this team as a whole and with players specifically. How has that progressed here lately and throughout the whole season?
Yeah, I think it's learned, and I know somebody had asked early in the season about some of the tough losses that we had, and is it frustrating that you lose some close games? Well, I think there really is a process to being successful, and you either learn from that or you don't. And one of the things that this team has done is they've learned from last year why we didn't have success to the start of this season. We were kind of up and down, and then why were we losing some of those close games? And that word poise was really credited to why we weren't having some success. And instead of say that's not the case, but really understand why it was the case, learn from it, grow from it, and work hard to negate that from happening again. This group's done a really good job at that. But that word poise, you almost have to earn that every week. When you're dealing with 18 to 22-year-olds, that can be out the window in a heartbeat. So you earn that by how you practice, you earn that by how you study, you earn that by how you come to work every day. And it's something that, I hope we're a poised team the rest of the way, because if we are, it'll give us great success. But again, you got to earn it every day, and that's what makes it really hard to have great poise.
I know Camilo Tomamoya didn't make the trip last weekend. What's the status for this weekend?
Yeah, I hope you're ready to roll.
Any other questions for Coach?
I'll take one.
We got one more.
So I talked with Coach Majors over the summer, and he talked about being aggressive and a disciplinarian in practice, but also having a little fun. Has that played in part with your team at all?
Yeah. I think we like to have a little bit of fun with it too. We've got good kids. There's great relationship in that locker room, and Randy hit the nail on the head with that. There's a really good bond between player and coach, and I think when you have that bond and you have that unity, fun starts to occur, because I think that naturally comes. So we're not gimmicky, we're not rah-rah, but I think this group has a lot of fun together and really enjoys being around each other.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.
Real quick, Marcel Spears got named Big 12 Player of the Defensive Player of the Week. What's kind of your recap about how he played over the weekend?
Yeah, and he was our player of the game, from our standpoint. So that's great to see. And Marcel, the greatest credit that I can give Marcel Spears is the fact that Marcel is one of those guys that in spring practice nobody knew who Marcel Spears was. And he goes through 15 practices, and he forces you as a coaching staff to play you. And then he takes that, kind of forces us to move Willie. Now how do we get our best players on the field? And he's not satisfied with it. He just keeps getting better. And that's fun thing about Marcel, even from game 1 to where he is right now in game 7. He's improved greatly, and so I'm really excited to see what the future holds for Marcel. If he continues on this trend, he'll be one of the great linebackers that have played here. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks,
All right.
Coach.